You know, you probably don't think about it much, but there's this vast, invisible network of pipelines running right under our feet, basically powering our world. They're bringing fuel to our homes, to our industries. But what happens when that network has to run straight through the heart of our communities? I mean, how do we make sure it's not just essential, but actually safe? Well, that's what we're going to figure out today by decoding the actual rule book they use.
So our guide for this whole thing is a real-world engineering standard. It's from Saudi Aramco, one of the largest energy producers on the planet. And listen, this isn't some theoretical exercise, okay? This is a blueprint that's used to make critical safety decisions on the ground like every single day. So yeah, let's dive in and see exactly how they do it.
Okay, to make this really concrete, let's start with a simple but super critical question. Imagine you've got to build a major pipeline, and the only possible route goes right past a school or a hospital. How in the world do you do that safely? I mean, do you just scrap the whole project? Well, the real-world answer is, a lot more sophisticated than you might think. Right, so it all starts by understanding the fundamental rules of the road, or, in this case, the rules of the pipeline. Let's take a look at how engineers go from having this huge problem to a concrete plan.
So here's the core dilemma, right? On one hand, we absolutely need these pipelines. They're basically the lifelines of our modern society. But on the other hand, they're carrying materials under a lot of pressure that could be pretty hazardous if they were ever released. And both of these things are true at the same time, existing side by side right where we live.
So when you're faced with that kind of situation, engineers obviously can't just rely on guesswork. The solution? It's a meticulously detailed blueprint. It's a safety standard that takes this abstract idea of risk and turns it into very real, very concrete engineering requirements. And that brings us to the absolute core of the process, sizing up the risk. It's simple, really. You can't manage a danger if you can't measure it first. So, how do engineers actually put a number on the potential danger of a pipeline in one specific spot? Well, it all starts with a key concept called the rupture exposure radius, or RER for short. And honestly, the easiest way to think about it is as a calculated what-if zone. So if the absolute worst-case scenario happens and the pipe ruptures, the RER is the theoretical area that could be affected. It's an absolutely critical first step in all the planning.
And here's the critical part. The RER isn't just one static number. It's totally dynamic. So as you can see here, a pipeline carrying some low-pressure liquids, well, it might have a what-if zone of just 200 meters. But for high-pressure flammable gas, whoa, that zone can stretch all the way out to 5,000 meters. The size of the risk is directly tied to what's actually inside that pipe. So how is this RER actually used? Well, it becomes the foundation for this really straightforward four-step process. First, you calculate the RER for whatever's in the pipe. Second, you literally map out that what-if zone along the entire pipeline route. Third, and this is the tedious part, for every single kilometer you count up all the buildings inside that zone. And finally, that building count is what's used to assign a risk rating.
And here's the payoff. That building count, it translates directly into something called a location class, from 1 to 4. So class 1 is like an undeveloped area, 10 or fewer buildings in that zone. Class 3 is a dense neighborhood. And class 4, that's the highest risk. That's a dense area that also has critical buildings, like a school. And this is the whole point. The system has just converted a super complex landscape into a simple, actionable risk score.
Okay, so now we have a risk score for every single kilometer of the pipeline. But let's be real, a score is pretty useless without a plan, right? That's where the safety playbook comes in. This is where we turn that risk score into actual action.
This is really where it all comes together. That location class we just talked about, it directly dictates the engineering choices. So in a low-risk Class 1 area, a standard pipeline design is totally fine. But in a high-risk Class 4 area, our school zone, the rules demand so much more. The pipe walls have to be thicker, the inspections have to be way more frequent and rigorous. And get this, instead of old-school manual valves that someone has to physically drive to, you need remotely operated emergency valves that can shut off the flow in minutes from a control room that could be hundreds of miles away.
So check out this diagram. It's taken right from the actual engineering standard, and it shows you how this works in practice. See how the pipeline is passing from a lower-risk Class 3 area into a high-risk Class 4 area? Well, you can't just change the pipe right at the boundary line. Nope. Instead, the rules require creating a dedicated safety buffer, and it's isolated by these things called emergency isolation valves, or IIVs. And here's the really critical detail. That stronger, thicker pipe that's required for the high-risk area, it doesn't just stop at the boundary. It actually extends all the way out to that isolation valve back in the lower risk zone.
What this does is it creates a complete, fully contained section that's built to the absolute highest safety standard. It's effectively creating a shield for the more populated area. Pretty smart.
Okay, so let's zoom out from all the technical details for a moment. What's the big picture philosophy that's driving all of this? I mean, why are these standards so important in the first place?
Honestly, this is probably the most important takeaway of this entire explainer, and it's adapted right from the source document itself. The goal of this whole process is not to create exclusion zones where you simply can't build anything. No, the purpose is to identify the high-risk areas specifically so you can justify and require greater and, more expensive safeguards. The whole approach is proactive, not prohibitive.
Ultimately, what we're looking at here is a masterclass in modern risk management. It recognizes that true safety isn't about pretending you can eliminate all risk because, let's face it, that's impossible. Instead, it's about a really disciplined process. First, you understand the environment. Then, you quantify the risk with tools like the RER. And finally, you design a response that is perfectly proportional to that specific risk.
And that leaves us with a final thought. We've just looked at one standard for one industry. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible rulebooks, what other detailed blueprints for safety are out there right now, quietly keeping our incredibly complex world running day in and day out?
If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, How to Do It. Search for us at How to Do 5 for even more interesting content.